Now we go to the third architect whose birthday was on the 31st of October, and that is the well-known Zaha Hadid. I have several presentations on her, and it was a little bit difficult to choose which ones to show. And I have here, I will start with this one. I have another one with the new works done by her office, which is run now by Patrick Schumacher. But let's begin with this one, where I show unbuilt works and some lesser known works. And you know, if I didn't choose correctly, please forgive me. So she was born in 1950, so 71 years ago, on the 31st of October. And we all know about her. She was one of the most publicized figures in architecture in recent times. I like this picture of Zaha Hadid. You know, it shows clearly a very determined lady. You know, a serious fighter for the cause of architecture, and I admire her for this. It's not easy what she did at all. I could not have done it. She did it, and what she did, very few architects could have done. So, you know, even if one might not agree with everything she did, I think she represented and she represents a true force in architecture. And her total dedication to her cause, you know, to what she believed in, totally remarkable, making no compromises. It was not easy, and she did it. So let's read Dame, because she became a Dame, which is the equivalent of a Sir. Zaha Mohammed Hadid was born on 31st of October, was an Iraqi architect, artist, and designer, recognized as a major figure in architecture of the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Born in Baghdad, Iraq, Hadid studied mathematics as an undergraduate and then enrolled at the Architectural Association School of Architecture in London in 1972. In search for an alternative system to traditional architectural drawing and influenced by suprematism and the Russian avant-garde, particularly Kazimir Malevich, Hadid adopted painting as a design tool and abstraction as an investigative principle to, quotation, reinvestigate the aborted and untested experiments of modernism, to unveil new fields of building. She was described by The Guardian, Great Britain, as the queen of the curve, which is not quite correct, because actually she has projects very angular, so it's very simplistic and actually misleading, who liberated architectural geometry, giving it a whole new expressive identity. Her major works include the London Aquatic Centre for the 2012 Olympics, the Broad Art Museum, Rome's Maxi Museum, and the Guangzhou Opera House. Some of her awards have been presented posthumously, including the statuette for the 2017 Brit Awards. Several of her buildings were still under construction at the time of her death, including the Daxing International Airport in Beijing and the Al Wakrah Stadium in Qatar, a venue for the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Hadid was the first woman to receive the Pritzker Architecture Prize in 2004. She received the UK's most prestigious architectural award, the Sterling Prize, in 2010 and 2011. In 2012, she was made a Dame by Elizabeth II for services to architecture, and in February 2016, the month preceding her death, she became the first woman to be individually awarded the Royal Gold Medal from the Royal Institute of British Architects. Well, we can only be impressed, because the truth of the matter is what this lady achieved in architecture is almost unprecedented. Some early works, I will show some early works which are less known. And I will begin with her first project, which brought her a lot of attention because she won the first prize for the Peak Leisure Club from 1982 in Hong Kong. And we already see the tremendously new and vigorous and almost wild architecture that she was promoting at that time. Even the way she represented her project was unique. You know, who would dare to present in a competition this kind of renderings? So this is her project here, and you know, it's yeah, she won the first prize again and again. If you take risks, you might lose, but if you don't take risks, you lose for sure. Well, she took risks and she won. Here you see influences coming from suprematism and the Russian avant-garde. It's an abstract language. It's an abstract architectural language. It's unconventional for that time and even for our time. But it worked. It worked for Zaha Hadid. You could say it was luck. I think it was more than luck. It was her determination, because for 10 years, she didn't have commissions. She just took part in competitions. Next, we are going to see a project that she won with, and it was not built. So she had her share of disappointments and defeats, but she never gave up. And this is, in a way, the recipe for success. Never give up. Doesn't matter, you know, society can be indifferent, can be malevolent towards you. Never give up if you believe in what you are doing. And she believed in what she did. So she won. She won the first prize for this competition. And I think there was joy in preparing these drawings. You know, these drawings were done manually. And you can tell, you know, they are turbulent drawings. They are, you know, from a conventional point of view, you would criticize them. You would say, wait a minute, you know, what is this? Well, what is this? Again, this is Hong Kong. This is the vision that she had for her project. Or what is this? The whole world. It's fragmented. It's maddening in a way, but it's part of her vision. She had a vision. Now we go to the second project that I show from her early work. She won this competition again, but this was not built, nor the previous one, the Cardiff Bay Opera House. But these projects paved the way for her later projects, which began to be built. And you know, again, if you adopt such a stance in architecture, you have to go to the very end. There is no room for compromise, and she didn't compromise. Okay, this was not built, although she won the competition. The previous one was not built. She won the competition, but she took her revenge. She built so many buildings that, you know, I would need 10 presentations in order to be able to pay justice to this phenomenon, because she was a phenomenon. Zaha Hadid. She was. There was a darkness in her vision, I would say, and I would not perhaps say more about it now, but maybe it deserves a whole distinct presentation just on the darkness or the dark side of Zaha Hadid. Although much of her work is rather white or whitish, but I think psychologically there is a darkness. There was a darkness in Zaha. I think if we can learn something from her is the value of passion. If you have passion and you work hard, if you persevere, maybe something will happen. It's not guaranteed. Of course, the complexity of life could bring one to different results than the ones she arrived at. But it is important to continue to trust in your instincts, in your vision, and to work hard, yes. Okay, so I'll show now incomplete, completed, and a few unbuilt projects. Rather unknown, most of them. I thought because her oeuvre is so large, it's massive actually, and many projects had been published extensively, I thought of showing some works which are a little bit less known, incomplete, some of them completed, and a few unbuilt projects. So we begin with this work in Melbourne, in Australia, which was not built, this tower. You know, again, she built a lot, but the body of her work is much more ample than her built work. And just like in the case of Frank Lloyd Wright or Le Corbusier, who also had so much work that was not built. Frank Lloyd Wright built more, but he himself did more than 1,000 projects, and only about 500 were built, I think. So again, the body of the work of an architect of their stature is huge. And, you know, this tower could have been an interesting addition to the skyline of Melbourne, but was not built. Now, at the time when she did this project, she had a team of at least 400 people working with her and for her. I mean, just one of these buildings, if you build one of these buildings that you see here, okay, only this one was hers. But what I'm trying to say is if an architect builds just one tower like this, would feel kind of accomplished. Well, she built many, as you know, many. Now, the Mercury House Tower in St. Julian's in Malta, another tower that was not built, but again, distinctive and with some very interesting things going on here. Again, you cannot do this kind of architecture with conventional manual means. It's impossible. You know, she has a department even now. I mean, now they have a research department within their office. About 20 people or so are just doing research. But when you have a team of more than 400 people, you can afford to pay the salaries in British pounds to 20 people who just do research. They are pushing the frontiers of architecture. and they are doing it with vigor. There is the mundane aspect of her architecture, which I have some troubles with. But you saw before Richard Morris Hunt, he also was working for an elite. Zaha Hadid was working for an elite. Um, I I wish she also worked, for more modest projects, like social housing or something like this. She didn't. Now, a museum in Cagliari in Italy, which was not built at the time when I made this presentation, it was on hold, but it's very interesting, and I wish it will be built. Again, if an architect would do just this building, could very well just rest for the rest of his or her life. And this is one of hundreds of projects that she did, and many of them built. It's not bad. I really wish this building would be built. The bizarre thing is, the strange thing is that she declared that she wanted to build a raw, RAW architecture, an earthy architecture, and a vital architecture. And I thought about these three words: raw, earthy, vital. I actually don't think she achieved what she wanted to do. I don't think her architecture is raw, and I don't think her architecture is earthy. Her architecture might be vital, but it's not raw and it's not earthy. And this excessive whiteness, I think, is a deficiency. The interesting forms, the volumes, the organic qualities, they are fine. But this excessive whiteness and smoothness, they are certainly not connected with what is raw and with what is earthy. And who knows, maybe if she lived longer, and it's said she died at 65, maybe she would have arrived at an architecture that, maybe, I don't know. I didn't see too many signs that she was moving in that direction. But this building, I wish it was built, because it is interesting. Without the laboratory, the research laboratory, and the extensive digital technology that they use, this could not have been even envisioned. Forget about making working drawings for it and building it. But again, this whiteness, excessive whiteness, bothers me. I have seen a building by her in Vienna, a library, for students' library. It's a large building. The interior very similar to what we look at here. Maybe here is a little bit more dramatic, but the same kind of architecture with smooth whiteness and yes, curves, but a little bit, for my taste, too mundane and too predictably smooth and white. Now, for Nicosia, Cyprus, the Freedom Square, this was also not built. She obviously worked incessantly. I mean, to do so many projects, so many competitions, and to build so many buildings. Her life was totally dedicated to architecture. Now, the Esfera City Center in Monterrey, Mexico, project which I don't think was built. I had a problem with this building, but who knows? Maybe I'm not right. It's this again, this mundane, is this kind of life that only a few can afford. I mean, here we see, young people running and so on, but these are expensive housing units. And as far as I know, she never addressed the other side of life, so to speak. It's something that, who knows, maybe even affected her health. I'm tempted to think. Anyway. I mean, again, who can afford this kind of living room? Not just in Mexico, but everywhere. Life seems to be indeed very nice, no? People jogging and, coming from the pool and, running there on those machineries. No one works. I guess certain people can do it. Anyway, the New Century CTR Center in China, in Chengdu, China, we know her architectural language is, in a way, although she has a variety of projects, but there is something about all of them that would make you say this is a Zaha Hadid project indeed. Although there are now other architects, including in China, who are kind of similarly with twisted, curvaceous forms and shapes and so on. I am surprised that she didn't seem to question this, continuously present whiteness and smoothness. Now, the Dominion Tower in Moscow, in Russia, which was built, it's not bad, but with the exception of this atrium, which is, like a vortex, otherwise the building towards the outside is rather, not very special. I wouldn't say it's banal, but you're going to see it. This is the center. The center seems to have some life in it. Otherwise, you see from afar or from the exterior is rather, a common building in a way. So, I mean, I know it's her birthday now. Maybe I shouldn't say anything negative. And I did this myself. Maybe that's why it bothers me a little. I think it's rather convenient and facile, this kind of, little diagonal that transforms the taller windows into less tall windows. It's a little bit graphic and it's almost like a gimmick. But this interior space is, although precedents were in Cincinnati in the Museum of Contemporary Art and also at the Maxi Museum in Rome. It's graphic. It is dynamic and a little bit confusing, and maybe she wanted that. But at least here you have whiteness and blackness. It's not just whiteness. Although whiteness is still significantly present. I see still some kind of a vortex here in this atrium at the center of the building. I think if she had the courage to bring some impurity, some imperfection into these fluid systems, her architecture perhaps would have been a little more interesting and complex and less graphic and less mundane. Maybe that's why Lebia-Souz, when he commented on the works of Lebia-Souz, of Zaha Hadid, he said that she compared her works with the works of Zvi Hecker, an architect in Israel, but born in Poland, like Daniel Lipskind. And he questioned a little bit, and I think Lebia-Souz was right. Exactly this aspect of the buildings of Zaha Hadid are remarkable, but somehow they don't connect with the city at large. They are in a way self-enclosed. They are perfectly fluid systems or fluidly perfect systems. I can play with the words, but they are also a little bit too smooth and too clean and too. You can imagine the amount of work required to maintain so much whiteness. It's anyway, a bridge in New Taipei in Taiwan. Again, a project was not built. Is a fine work. Now we have seen bridges, maybe not so long like this one, but kind of using the same structural system. We just saw one in Rotterdam, the Erasmus Rotterdam, by UN Studio, which is not very different, but not so long as this one. Well, this techno-optimism and this proliferation of interesting structures all over the world. Look at the quality of the rendering. I mean, the reinforced concrete is shown with my God, the amount of detail. If I am to express myself in this way, if you enter into a competition with the office of Zaha Hadid, it's almost impossible to contemplate that you can win. I mean, the level of sophistication they have I think they won a competition with this bridge. How do you fight with them? There are videos with this. You could swear that it was built. It was not built. Now, the Iraqi parliament building in Baghdad, which was not built either, These are, rather more recent works, closer to the time when she died. And you can see, kind of interesting, you saw the violence, the angular violence of her early work, particularly the Peak project. And now you see her work is becoming a little more, not conventional, but there is an ornamental side to her work, which makes the work a little bit less aggressive and, adequate in this case for the function, the parliament of Iraq. So Zaha Hadid has been selected to design the new Iraqi parliament in Baghdad. The controversial decision comes after London-based Assemblage was crowned as winner of the competition for the building, which placed Hadid's proposal third. Though a dispute began once the competition's client sparked conversations with Hadid after the winning firm was named, the client stated that the competition rules allow for any shortlisted design proposal to be ultimately chosen for construction. The former RIBA president and competition jury member Sunand Prasad backed the client's claim, stating, obviously we selected the winner, therefore we'd like to have seen it built, but the client reserved the right to pick any of the top three, and they have gone ahead and done that, but it was not built. Now the Qatar Stadium, which is built, and hopefully next year, if the pandemic somehow allows it, it will be used for the soccer games, football games. There was some controversy here too, because many people apparently died. The construction workers, I don't know exactly why, but that was not the responsibility of Zaha Hadid. That's for sure. It's not because of her that poor construction workers, maybe they lived in inadequate conditions. Anyway, a remarkable stadium, and another remarkable stadium was proposed by her for Tokyo for the Olympics of this year, and she won the competition, and she was sabotaged by the Japanese authorities, who gave the project to Kengo Kuma. And there was even some litigation. There was Zaha Hadid, her office, they sued, they tried to fight for getting the project built, but they didn't succeed. So Kengo Kuma built, you are going to see the project. Now recently completed projects. It's this one in Qatar, the stadium, and how many stadiums in the world are like this? Not many. So, very large public works founded Zaha Hadid, a skilled architect. So maybe next year we are going to see it when this championship will start there. Now Qatar has all the money in the world, so they afford it to build this rather special stadium, and quite big. I don't know if this ornamentation here belongs truly to, seems rather static. It's possible she compromised a little bit. I don't know, but it's not typical of her work, what we see here at the bottom. Now, in London, the gallery at the Science Museum from 2016, she died in 2016. So she died in March. This is like an installation, but she was able to build very large buildings, but also to create works like this one. which is essentially interior design. Now, when you see something like this, you would agree with the Guardian that she was the queen of the curves. Not all her works are like this. So there can be magic in architecture, but in order to arrive at that magic, you need to have the tools to be able to express what you want to express in this way. And if you don't have those tools, you simply cannot do it. I mean, how do you create these kind of surfaces? Impossible. You need to have the technology to do it. Now, here is another built work, Zaha Hadid Architects. This was done after she died, I think. Carves out sculptural flood protection barrier in Hamburg, in Germany. Zaha Hadid Architect has completed the sculptural Niederhaven River Promenade in Hamburg, Germany, as part of the city's upgrade of its flood prevention system. Positioned along the 625-meter long stretch between the streets, it replaces one of the city's existing but dilapidating flood barriers built in 1964. While providing vital flood defense for the city, Zaha Hadid design also incorporates amphitheater-like staircases, a three-story restaurant and shops at street level to offer the city a new public space and riverside walkway. So essentially, this is almost like landscape design, and I think it's valid. It's not extravagantly overworked. It welcomes people, as you can see here. It was before the pandemic, to lay there and to contemplate the water and the ships. So I think they adapted the work quite well to the context and to the function. Now, this was a tower proposed for Fifth Avenue in New York, which was not built from 2017. So she died in 2016. This is the tower. It was not built. I don't know if it will be built or not. Now, so let's look at it again. It's surely this tower. And now California residence. So very different from what we saw from Charles Moore and Richard Morris Hunt. I don't know. I think her private residence is, now this might have, I don't know if it was proposed while she was alive or after she died. It's possible during her life, I mean, while she was still alive. I don't think her houses or her, are very intimate. And you know, they are interesting, of course, in terms of shape, but I think they lack intimacy. Something, in my opinion, is missing. I looked carefully at the house she built for that Russian immensely rich man, and it's futuristic, it's extravagant, it's interesting, it's exciting, it's enticing, but there is no intimacy. There is no sense of home, I would say. And, you know, I mean, this building could have been anything. Could have been a church or a chapel. It could have been anything. And it's very big. So anyway, the Middle East Center, St. Anthony's College in Oxford, UK, it was built, is this work here, of course. And I like the fact that Oxford understands that despite the valuable historical buildings they have, they need to build in the present and for the present and for the future. So here she is building this building in an old campus. You know, she didn't change. It's the same Zaha Hadid architecture, expressing a forward-looking, you know, vision, and with new materials. I mean, look here, the masonry wall, and then next to it is the building by Zaha Hadid. I noticed in some other works by her that the glass surfaces she uses, in my opinion, they are rather conventional. I mean, you see it even here. Gone are the curves, gone are the Baroque, you know, formal display of virtuosities and so on. It's in other buildings the same thing. It's like the glass, it didn't work enough on the glass, and then this glass wall is rather banal. You know, it's somehow it has a different spirit, and it's very conventional, I would say. Anyway, the Dubai Opera House, which was not built, but you never know, Dubai might build it. After all, they can. And look at the site plan. I think this work was done after she died. She taught architecture at the Institute of Architecture in Vienna for a long time. I don't know, 15 years or so. And they published 2 books with the works of the students. They had one is called Total Fluidity, and the other one Fluid Totality. And there are a good number of Romanian students there. I have one of the books, and that's why I know what I'm saying. Very skilled in working with, you know, in a similar way, you know, with curves and, you know, high technology and digital, you know, means. Very skillful. I also know there is a Romanian student. She studied in Bucharest, and then she went to the Zaha Hadid studio in Vienna. And she told me that when she was going there to, you know, to her classes or to the atelier, she thought she was in Romania, because out of 30 students, 6 or 7 were talking Romanian. They were from Romania. Anyway, a touch of patriotism here. So the Dubai Opera project, which was not built yet, and it might not be, I don't know. Now the waterfront, this Regium waterfront in Reggio, Italy, another large project. It's amazing how many projects she did, or they did. Yes, fluid totality or total fluidity. Now, wideness is gone in this model. Dubai financial market, another large work. Yes, Dubai can afford it. Personally, I think that these works are not totally without any possible blame, because they are very slick and kind of self-enclosed. I mean, the forms, the shapes do extend themselves towards unknown horizons, but there is something about them. They are still kind of object-like. I mean, they are not, in my opinion, they are not truly communicate. They are not porous enough. And the towers, although she built, I think, a very, very elegant tower in Milan, but these towers are, for my taste, again, I'm subjective, too mundane, too slick, too clean, and too, well, from the perspective of today, considering that I don't think any window there would open, basing themselves on, a lot of technology in order to pump air. This is Dubai, right? So you need a cool environment, otherwise you'll melt down. And well, I don't know. I guess yes, they do have the money, they have the oil, but it's a kind of architecture that, in my opinion, is a little bit inadequate for our time, because it has an optimism that is nourished by huge amounts of money exploiting the oil, and this kind of optimism, I think, today, well, the project is older, it's not from 2 years ago, but I think certain things, paradigms have changed. I don't think today we can propose such an architecture with the conviction that she perhaps had when the project was made, or at least her office. Would I want the whole world to look like this? I'm not sure. I'm not sure, and somehow in the much more modest architecture of Charles Moore, at least for some programs, I think there are valuable, positive, qualities that perhaps we should consider seriously. And even the Richard Morris Hunt buildings, so very different from these buildings, but there is a history there is a continuity, there is a tradition. The masonry wall, these buildings were supposed to be made with concrete, and only concrete and concrete, and okay, here we have steel and glass, but so much concrete, and we know that the concrete is polluting the world. So, but again, this was done prior to the crisis that we are in, and how do we replace, how can we continue to build such huge buildings without using, well, in this case, concrete? Maybe the times are suggesting to us to become more modest, and this kind of, complex of buildings, which takes, which takes humanity to the level where it imagines that everything is fine. I don't think is proper for our time. But all in all, the experiments of Zaha Hadid and her office are valuable, I think, and she showed. And also, I think even here in this project, you see the flower-like, crystallization of the project, and this is kind of interesting, that from the angular aggressivities of her early work to the flower-like configuration of her more recent works, there is a distance, and somehow this ornamental side of her work points in the direction perhaps of feminization of architecture, which is, I think, a good thing if it happens. If we get rid of this excessive slickness, which does bother me, and this mundane aspect of her architecture, which I hope could be challenged. I mean, in renderings, it looks fine, but imagine again that you have to maintain, the slickness of these surfaces, with an army of, modestly paid or underpaid personnel cleaning up, so the architecture seems sublime all the time. But when I see these studies, I think of the words of her partner, and now the one who runs the office, the Zaha Hadid Architect's office, Patrick Schumacher, who said, structure and ornament should come together. And I agree with it. So there is, as you can see here, the ornament is insinuating itself into the project. So the structure becomes ornament, and the ornament becomes structure, and this is shown in several newer works by them quite explicitly. Now, the Tokyo National Stadium, she won the competition for this important commission, but unfortunately, it was not granted to her, and it was probably an unfair decision by the Japanese. They gave the project to Dan Coma. This is the project that she did, and I think she should have been allowed to build it. It has an heroic quality which connects with the stadiums that Kenzo Tange built in Tokyo more than half a century earlier. In fact, around 70 years earlier almost. And I think the project by Kengo Kuma is, although some praise it for its, in a way, modesty, but how could you build a stadium of this size, which is modest? In its very function and dimensions, it cannot be modest. But I understand in a way the perplexity provoked by a stadium which seems to be modest, and the paradox that such a so-called modesty would give to a stadium of such dimensions. But I think the project by Zaha Hadid was superior, and it's very regrettable that it was not built. Even more so when you consider that it was actually, she won the competition. It was the first prize, and it was not built. This is sad, and it's another injustice to which women creators are subjected to. I don't know if that was the reason why it was, she was not given the commission. She protested, I understood. She even sued, I don't know, the Japanese government or the authorities. I don't know what happened with that litigation, but all in all, her stadium was not built, and it was a defeat. But I think her project still stands for the incredible courage of this lady, her vision, her skill, just to be able to bring together such a program at this level of crystallization and this obvious aesthetical coherence is not easy at all. And she did it, or they did it, because it was a large team working on the project, and it's not the only thing they did, of course. Anyway, we are looking at an aborted project which could have been built, but it was not. I just noticed this thing which surprises me. Is this existent? Because this makes me think of a similar structure, at Ronchamp, and even at Saint-Pierre de Firminy-Vert by Le Corbusier. A little structure, but very similar, a little ziggurat near the two churches that Le Corbusier built. Well, one after he died, Saint-Pierre de Firminy-Vert, the other one at Ronchamp. Anyway, it's not going to be this work by Zaha. And not because of the pandemic. I mean, this kind of incredible gathering of, I don't know the numbers of this huge audience. The flag, the Japanese flag there on the left, I don't know if she would have placed it there if she knew that, she would be deprived of the right to build the building. Okay, so let's wish her happy birthday. And what else can we say? A remarkable architect.